All right, what you're about to watch is an excerpt of a sermon that I did for the church at Ohatchee Church of Christ and was recorded here. This is a small portion of that sermon, which I thought may be relevant to you. You may find interesting. But if you'd like to see the greater sermon as a whole, it is also on the channel. And that description of what sermon it'll be will be in the description below. Thanks. Thirdly, wealth will stand as a witness. Wealth will stand as a witness. Verse 5. Verse 4. Behold, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, are crying out against you, and the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. They are crying out against you. They are witnessing against you, is the idea here. The gold and silver, these rustless metals, right, are said to have rusted, meaning they bear the marks of disuse, not being used for what they were given to you for. God didn't give you gold so that you would allow it to rust. Remember the parable of the talents, where Christ gives these three men different amounts of money and then charges them to do things with that money. And the third one doesn't do anything with it. He buries it. And so the king comes back and he asks, "What did you do with what I gave you?" Quite literally, what did you do with the money that I gave you? And the man said, "I buried it." God didn't give you money so that you could bury it, sit upon it, feel more comfortable, more secure, so you can make sure your children never had to work as hard as you. He didn't give it to you so that it would sit and rust. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, he says. The wealth will be a witness against you. If it's true that where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, then if you want to know where your heart is, then your treasure is a witness to that. Your treasure will tell you what that is. What you treasure tells where your heart is. Your wealth will stand as a witness about your heart. And hoarding wealth is a denial of its proper use. Hoarding it is a denial of its proper use. Luke 12:33, sell your possessions and give to the needy. Provide yourselves with money bags that do not grow old, with a treasure in the heavens that does not fail, where no thief approaches and no moth destroys. It's also a denial of true trust. Hoarding wealth for yourself is an evidence of a denial of true trust in God. 1 Timothy 6:17, as for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. 1 Timothy 6:18 and 19, it is a denial of godly expectancy. It is a denial of what is to come, of eternal life. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so they may take hold of that which is truly life. Not saying that it's wrong to save and make sure that no one else has to care for you in the future. That's good. But I do think there's a limit to it, and it's probably smaller than we think that it is. They are to do good, be rich in good works, be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so they may take hold of that which is truly life. That is, storing up treasures in heaven. There's this draw from storing up treasures on earth to storing up treasures in heaven. Those of us who are rich, which is all of us, are to be rich in good works, to focus not primarily on storing up treasures here, as if God is not the primary source of our care, as if it's our wealth, as if God is given us that wealth to sit upon ourselves and not to use for his glory and his name and his kingdom. Verse 5 says, let's see. You have lived on earth in luxury and in self-indulgence. You have fattened your hearts in the day of slaughter. That is a fearfully vivid picture. Like so many unthinking beasts, cattle luxuriating in their rich pasture day after day, growing fatter by the hour, and careless of the fact that each day, each hour brings the butcher nearer. Only the thin beast is safe in that day. The well-fed has made itself ready for the knife, Douglas Moo says. The idea of storing up and hoarding wealth for ourselves is like fattening ourselves for the day of slaughter. God did not create gold to rust. Every dollar you have has been given to you by God, and He didn't give it to you, nor did He give me mine, so that we could build our own little kingdoms for us to sit on more wealth than what we could ever really need. Here's the question put forth by this passage. If today, and this idea that wealth is a witness against you or to you, if today your soul is required of you, which it may be, and you stood in the courtroom of God, and the way you've spent your money stood up to testify, would it be testifying for you being Christ's disciple or against you? The way you spend your money speaks as loudly as anything else about what you truly believe.